What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 6 of the Line of Details podcast. We are back. What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
Yo.
Okay, so I'm your host, Wes. Y'all already know me. We also have 3 returning moderators. We have John Smythe. Smythe, how you doing, man?
I'm chilling.
Cool. We got John McNeil. McNeil, how you doing, bro?
Yo, I'm good.
We got Zari. How you doing, man?
What's that?
And we got a special guest, our homie Stan the Man Collins. What's good, Stan?
Yo.
What's going on? Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on, man. I'm doing the old sleight of hand of, quietly adding you to the set, as part of my master plan. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yes.
You will be working with us sooner than you know.
Yes.
Nah, it was all love. But yeah, man, we had a good year, man. We had to take off basically like the whole summer and almost the whole fall, man. This was a crazy year for us.
Facts.
100%. I don't think we even really had time to really do the podcast between the summer and the fall,
We had no time to do anything.
Except
whole entire
work,
year.
except like bread and butter stuff,
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that was I jokingly told my wife one day, I was like, Soul Surplus is turning into 3 hots in the cot, yo.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Lord.
Just showing up every day, do what you got to do, and then go back to sleep.
Is that a reference for people born before 1990?
Oh my God.
Shut up.
Because I don't get it.
You've got some nerve with that AV looking like you're part of the Temptations.
Yeah, right. And you also got a lot of nerve because everything that you like resides in 1990. So I don't even know why you trying to clown.
Right.
I just asked the question. If the answer is yes, then we can move on.
Sheesh.
Yeah. But nah, we missed you guys, man. We definitely wanted to get back into the show, but we wanted to make sure that everything was kind of back to normal again. And man, it was just a long year, guys. I'm really glad to be back doing this again. This is the fun podcast, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where we kind of get to talk about, all the stuff that's real fun. But yeah, man, y'all want to hop right into it? Or?
Let's do it.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you want.
Okay.
Unless you want to talk about music, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, probably the biggest news somewhat this week was Jay-Z turning 50, which is insane. It kind of when people hit like marks like that, it really makes you kind of get on your introspection, John. You know what I'm saying? And go back, and it didn't even hit me until I was like, wow, this man started rapping when I was 16. You know what I'm saying? And Smythe had to be
crazy.
What, like
3,
2,
5.
Yeah, I was 3. I was 3 when Reasonable Doubt came out.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, shout outs to Hove. It's a really big accomplishment to reach that. I mean, 50 years old is a big deal, especially for a black man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it still be relevant.
A black billionaire at that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. This dude is I know he's been getting a lot of stuff recently, with everything that's been going on. We're not even trying to walk down that alley today.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he's done a lot, man. I mean, mad hits, obviously. How many consecutive summers did he have number ones? It was like 7 summers or something like that. 7 or 8 summers.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously all the billions and philanthropy stuff and being married to Beyonce. It's pretty crazy, man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he turned 50 this week, and me and Smythe were laughing because miraculously his whole entire catalog showed up on Spotify.
Right.
Which was
I was happy.
What you say?
I said, I was happy.
Oh, I know you. Yeah, right. Yeah. So Smythe was like, man, maybe I should have kept Spotify.
It was on Apple too. It showed up because at first I didn't notice, and it was up there. It's like, they cut a little deal real quick.
Yeah. So I was. It's funny because even like a little while ago, Blueprint wasn't on any platform. I think except Tidal. But even Blueprint is available everywhere now. Kind of reminds me of like when Disney would do that thing with their vault with all the classic animation Jones, where they would like they would pull out like Cinderella or Snow White for like a month, and then they would put it back in the vault, and then you couldn't buy it for like another 10 years after that. So kind of reminds me of that. I mean, from a businessman standpoint, I think it's genius. It's like, hey, I'm turning 50 this week. Going to be a whole lot of people probably trying to stream my music. So might as well make it available on Spotify and get a couple billion streams this week, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, does he even really need it? It kind of seems just like it's not underhanded, but it's like just because, you know, which I like that too, you know. There's nothing wrong with that, but like what difference does it make for Jay-Z at this point?
I mean, in my opinion, I think it points to the fact that it points to the thing that he's kind of always said, whereas, you know, the artist is the one really with all the power. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he shows up on that. We say sorry?
I was literally about to say that. Control.
Yeah. So you show up on a platform and it's basically your way of snubbing your nose at, you know what I'm saying, the competition, being like, yo, I showed up on your platform and subscription went up, you know what I'm saying, probably 100,000 just from me being on there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not mad at Jay for doing it. What you think, Stan?
He's a businessman.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. It was kind of funny, like thinking about it in this kind of like the context of like streaming services and like the Tidal rollout, and that being such an anchor for so many people. Like, I'll get Tidal because, you know, like Jay's there. Right. And so to see him on like all these other sites, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, turning 50, I mean, it also kind of shows how like young hip hop is in a lot of ways.
Right.
Where he can be like the guy that's like, I mean, we see like Keith Richards out here and like, and like all these older like rock bands like still kicking, and then like to see Jay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
still be
like,
relevant.
I made a post maybe like a month ago about how, you know, there's a lot of rappers, especially like you think about groups, rappers that are in groups, like a lot of them just didn't make it. Like Phife didn't make it. Jam Master Jay didn't really make it. You know what I mean? Like it's like it shouldn't be a shock that Jay-Z is 50 and he's still here, but it's almost kind of like, yo, nobody took him out. And I'm not saying that to be like morbid or you know, like to try and be smart or anything, but like, yo, it's kind of huge. Like he's still here when there's so many people that are being taken out, like Heavy D, you know, because of his own health reasons. ODB, I think he overdosed, something like that. Like, I don't know. It's just crazy. Like there's nothing is taking him out. So, you know, not only is he very successful, but he's taking care of himself, you know, Jay-Z, that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it kind of makes you think about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you guys are good.
I was going to say it kind of makes you think about like where hip hop would be should we still have those artists here with us, like even Biggie and Pac as well. Like where would hip hop be? Like what kind of transition would hip hop have made with those artists still being around?
Yeah, I think about them too specifically a lot. I'm like, would them dudes have, I don't know, because you know that the saying is, man, Big and Pac, they wouldn't allow none of this stuff to happen. And I'm kind of like, would they even be relevant today for real?
Yeah.
Nope.
You know,
Probably not.
Would they have been as savvy as Jay or Puff, you know what I'm saying, or Dr. Dre, you know, in their ascent? That's the stuff. I mean, we could have a whole podcast just on that, on the what ifs.
Indeed.
You know, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, shout out to Jay, man. It's quite an accomplishment, man, and definitely salute you for everything you've done for the game and the community, and definitely salute you for hopefully he sees another 50 years, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Salute the GOAT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Smythe, you had something that you wanted to talk about that you said you felt like was a little problematic.
Yeah. So this morning, the legendary Pete Rock of Pete Rock and CL Smooth, he made a post. So it was a meme, and it's a person talking to a crowd. So the person talking to the crowd says, "Who's a DJ?" And everyone is raising their hand. And then he says, like the bottom half of the meme, "Who mixed with vinyl?" And everyone has their hand down. They're kind of looking sad. So the caption says, "Then you're not a true DJ. You're a DJ glitch." I thought it was pretty funny. if you don't know where to put the needle down on vinyl, then you guys have a lot to learn. And then like the hand over the face emoji. So yeah, you know, I really disagree with this one. And before I even go into it, I'm gonna say that Pete Rock has a right to say whatever he wants,
of course,
concerning anything with music, with producing, with DJing. Like anything he says automatically to me just holds merit, because Pete Rock is really, and he's still like one of the nicest to do it. You know, like he doesn't just have the big records. Like that dude he's very skilled. You know.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he deserves where he's at, you know, 100%, at least in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions. However, you know, this one was a little ridiculous to me, because I feel like, you know, being a DJ really doesn't have anything to do with the format or the way that people are hearing the music. You know, like I've never been to a party or seen a DJ and people are like, yo, is that a vinyl record? You know, because like it has nothing to do with what it means to, or not that it has nothing to do with, but like fundamentally what it means to be a DJ, in my understanding, you know, it doesn't have to do with how you're playing the music or what the music is made out of, you know. Mm-hmm. Like even growing up, like hearing my brother scratch, and Len is he's like he knows the art form, like that's a big thing for him. But hearing him DJ, like being in places where he's DJing, it's never about him, you know, like it's never about the routines or mixing this or you know, like what, you know, whatever kind of like nerdy stuff, you know, and it's the same way, like if you go and see I don't know, you know, great musicians who are playing on stage, you know, at least the good ones, it's never really all about like, oh, you know, I know how to slap bass, so they're always slapping bass, you know. Mm-hmm. Like that's not what it means to be a great musician, you know. Like there's really no, I just don't think it's fair to put qualifiers, especially on outdated technology, you know. So there's a lot to be said, but that's kind of like the summary of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think there's like a couple different conversations that could happen there. And I guess if we're talking about Pete Rock, he must be talking about DJing in the core, like, you know, finding its roots in hip hop.
Right.
Because it's like the other conversations are whether it's like DJing as curation, DJing as a producer, DJing as these wild live EDM guys who have blown to the highest success they've ever had in the 2010s. So it's just like there's like a couple different conversations happening, and I guess his stance is more of like the core concept of what we know of like hip hop being like built on, and that being like I guess a core foundation of DJing. He might be maybe implying that like that is what DJing is to him, and these other offshoots and like variations and I guess what they've become maybe are something else. But that is like even like I guess the debate that happens in hip hop, like what's a rapper?
Right.
Well, yeah. But I mean that's the whole part of like evolution in music, and we can't blame, you know, the new guys for using a new technique versus, you know, an old school form of art that, you know, isn't used like that these days.
Right. No pun intended.
So, and it's gonna continue to evolve into something different. Right. I mean, people are DJing from their phones now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I remember Smythe, you don't know this, Stan, you don't know this. I think Zari might know this, but John was definitely present. About 5 years ago, I was making the rounds for a couple years, and I was DJing here and there, a little something.
Yeah.
And
nice too, bro.
No, I knew you were a DJ.
I am in no way, shape, or form a traditional DJ, even though I can DJ. I used to DJ on vinyl back in the day.
Yeah.
But like I have a Tractor S4, which is, currently collecting dust in the corner. Mm-hmm. But like I would go to these places and there would be some really, really good DJs there. And I still rock the crowd better than them, just off of the strength of pace and songs chosen. You know what I'm saying? Which kind of like really goes into, that's really what the DJ used to be about back in, on the block. You know what I'm saying? It was about keeping the atmosphere alive. You know what I'm saying? And then it turned into, between the DJs, who's the nicest DJ? And in my opinion, like, I think like, I don't know, man, because it's hard to talk about this stuff because you're not trying to disparage a legend, you know what I'm saying? And you're not even necessarily trying to tell him that he's wrong, you know what I'm saying? Because his truth is his truth, you know what I'm saying? And it's not necessarily like this is one of those fluid type of conversations where it doesn't have to be, black or white. But at the same time, it's just like, but then I look at Jeff and it's like, this dude is like flying out to do the, the wireless Jones, and he loves them. And he's like, the reason why I love using this is because like for years and years, like you can't walk on the platform when you're DJing because any vibration in the ground is going to make the needle skip. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like stuff like that. It's like, I could definitely imagine somebody from, 2 eras ago being like, oh man, I ain't really DJing because, literally it's the needle is it's wireless. It's in the air. It's not even, I don't even think it's touching the record. You know what I'm saying? It's about the record spinning and it's reading the record. You know what I'm saying? So it's, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's about the result, I think. Like tell Quest he ain't a DJ. To me, Questlove is.
Yeah, and I've seen Questlove. Right. I've seen Questlove use like Pioneer platters.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yep. So it's not like it's I would never say, and shoot, I don't know if y'all have ever been privy to be at one of his like showcases. Like that man can DJ, bro. Like you want to talk about somebody that knows, you know what I'm saying, how to lend to a party. Yeah. But what you think, Stan? What you think, Stan? I'm gonna start saying what you think, Stan, so we not leaving you out of conversation. You can hop in whenever, sure. Bro.
Sure. Yeah, I saw Smythe's post about P Rock.
We all did.
Right. And it was interesting. And like I was thinking about a couple of things. So like one, I think technology has lowered the barrier for entry to a lot of things. Yeah. And so it feels like what Pete Rock is really commenting on is like how people, especially younger people, can be quick to like call themselves a thing and not like put in the time and skill or have to develop the skill and effort to like prove that thing, if that makes sense. So like, y'all are like producers, right? Like there are a lot of people that like call themselves producers and have not created music in a remotely traditional way. Might not even be like that musical. And I think to me, I kind of see where he's going with that, because I know this isn't like a photography podcast, but like I'm thinking about
but talk about it from your angle, bro. You're a photographer.
So yeah, and you see it with like film photographers versus like digital, and it's like, oh, you didn't learn this way, so like therefore you're like less valid. And I don't agree with that. But I do understand like the gripes that someone who like went through a process of like, I was, digging in the record store whatever day music was released and like finding these samples and like going over a vinyl record like hundreds of times to try to get like the perfect loop or whatever, right? Whatever, however it looks. And I think if you kind of came up in like, if you're born in like 98, like you just have a very different experience with music.
Oh yeah.
So like, and with that different experience could come like, oh, I feel like I'm a DJ now because I like, I did whatever. And for whatever it's worth, it might be valid, but I get where P Rock is coming from and I understand it. I don't necessarily like agree with it, but I understand it.
Right. I think
why do we have to create that bridge every time? Like, why is there that bridge where it's like, you know, I'm from the old school, we did it this way. What you're doing is not really, you know, it's not so and so.
Well,
like,
I think it's
why not embrace each other?
I think dudes are just human, you know, and you know that's the thing is it's very easy. It sucks when you've been the man and then people kind of forget. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, you know, we all have our things. You know what I'm saying? And you know, you can empathize with, you know, probably how guys like him feel. Like, so for guys like us, like Pete Rock never lost relevance. You know what I'm saying? I'll listen to Pete Rock today. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like, it's interesting because I think even our group falls in this weird place where we all very much are children of both sides. You know what I'm saying? So we're very, very much like, we're very much present in both the analog and the digital spaces. You know what I'm saying? And I know for myself, like, the older I get, the more that I actually move away from analog because I don't really have time, you know?
But your history with analog informs how you move
100%.
with the digital, which I think is important for, I guess, some of the young guys to grasp. I think the OGs, their biggest stances is more like, yo, just show respect at least. It's kind of like in the NBA, it's like, yo, you're LeBron James, and if you don't show any respect to, like, you know, a Magic or the guys before, it's like the OGs feel a little bit, you know, like, dang, like you don't even know about us, like, or show any respect. Right. It's like, you know, you can kind of play the game today because of us. So I guess in a similar sense with music, it kind of goes the same way as like, yo, just show a little respect and having done a little bit of homework.
Right.
But as far as how far that can go, you know, that's debatable, and I don't really lean too hard either way. I definitely show respect to the OGs and have done my homework, and I would think that in order to make the best music, sometimes it would be best to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Nothing wrong with a little bit of homage, you know.
Yeah, bro.
Well, you have to have a launching off point at, you know, at some point. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Smite.
no, I was gonna say, like, I liken it to this. Like, you know how I am about producers playing instruments, but I could never just say, like the example I used in my post, I was like, yo, if I had it my way, I would say, if you can't play the Ionian mode on 2 instruments, then you're not a producer. You know, like, how many producers does that immediately eliminate? Because
99.9%.
Because how many of them know?
Feeling rather alienated right now.
Yo, and the thing is, I did it on purpose. The ironic thing is that the Ionian mode is just a major scale. But how many producers are gonna know that? And then
I'm learning piano right now, though.
Right, and so learn on piano and then learn it on something else. You know, like that's, you know, well, Quincy Jones can do it. You know, but it's like when are we gonna stop doing that? Like I could never just say that because I know that my favorite producers, and I'm not saying this about Pete Rock. I didn't want it to sound like I was saying like Pete Rock can't play the major scale, but I just mean in general, like that eliminates my favorite producers, and you know, like I could never just say that some of my favorite producers are not producers because of these like whatever standards, you know.
Right.
So, you know, vinyl or
like
not.
Stevie J from Bad Boy, that was a producer's producer. That man played on multiple instruments.
Yeah, yo, like, and the thing, yeah, it's a back in the day thing. Like, what's the guy, Campbell, Warren Campbell?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
People like that, or even now, like Terrace Martin. People like that they're amazing, you know.
Jimmy Jan, Terry Lewis.
Yeah, crazy. Prince, like, but that doesn't mean that Tay Keith is not a producer.
Yeah, it's about the result.
Keith, yeah, he's to me like I love Tay Keith, man. Like I was watching sorry, I'm going a little off, but there was a Complex series called I think it's like the guy, he follows someone on their job, and so he followed a music producer's job, so he followed Tay Keith. So he's in a studio with a big like SSL console. He takes his laptop and he puts it on the console. So the guy, he was like, so what you're saying is like, you don't need any of this stuff? He's like, nah, just a laptop.
Yeah. And it was probably a PC too.
Probably. Yep.
Gaming joints.
It was a 2003 Dell.
Yeah. But that's kind of the thing. It's like, first of all, DJ wouldn't even exist if not for somebody bringing some ingenuity to an already established art form. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So it just kind of like, that's why I always cringe when it's just like, come on, man, you don't ever want to make yourself seem like the old bitter guy, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, let's hop right into the next conversation. Those were kind of like our warm-up topics. I was really, really looking forward to talking about these next two topics. So the first one is, this past week, Billboard announced new rules for merchandising album bundles. And this report actually came out through Billboard, was written by Colin Stutz. And so just to give you a little background, he said in the article that moving forward, in order for an album sale to be counted as part of a merchandise album bundle, all of the items in the bundle must be available for purchase concurrently and individually on the same website. In addition, the merchandise item sold on its own will have to be priced lower than the bundle, which includes both the merchandise and the album. Furthermore, merchandise bundles can only be sold in an artist's official direct-to-consumer web store and not via a third-party site. This is going to completely... Now, I'm kind of confused. I mean, I guess I understand why they're doing this, but this kind of screams to me somebody's mad about somebody having a lot of sales.
Oh, yeah. We already know what happened earlier in the year with the whole Travis Scott Astroworld beating Nicki Minaj's Queen to number one. For the merch thing. Like, that's literally what started that big debate. And so, you know, if that debate's happening, it's happening with the record labels who are ultimately trying to get the bread. So,
right.
Yeah, bro.
So it's interesting because I thought that bundling was a new thing, and apparently bundling goes all the way back to Prince and Michael Jackson, I believe, used to do it as well. But I think Prince was the first person who made it like really popular. Yo, Prince, this dude was he was 50 years ahead of everybody on everything, I swear.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, Stan would know.
I was literally about to say, I was definitely about to hand the mic right to Stan, because
I'm not gonna put him on blast, but he told me he basically told me he's a very big Prince fan for a hilarious reason.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Stan.
No, yeah, Prince is my guy. But yeah, I mean, so I guess what Prince was doing, I don't know what specifically he was bundling, but I do know, just thinking about like how he thought about music as more than just like a singular experience, right? So it's not just the record. It's the video, is especially like the extravagant like stage design on the tours, and like it's the clothes. It's like, it's literally like a world you're like entering into.
Right.
So I mean, him being like 50 years ahead of people like makes total sense.
Right.
I mean, and some I completely agree with. And I think with the bundling thing, so I, like reading the article, it was interesting, and I was thinking about how a couple things came to mind. I think bundling makes like already big and like massively appealing artists like even bigger.
Right.
And so, and I don't think it helps like your like kind of middle of the road artists. But it does make those people like a Tyler, the Creator, who has like the whole like golf clothing line.
Right.
And like his stuff is in like Zoomies, and he kind of has like that skateboarding subculture thing kind of going on. So that'll like push his stuff through the roof. And I was even thinking like Rihanna hasn't put out an album in a minute. And largely, I mean, I don't know why she hasn't, but I know in the meantime she's been like doing. Yeah, she don't have to, right? She can literally probably never make music again and be fine.
Right.
But like she, the whole like Fenty beauty line, right? And I'm like, I don't know. I doubt she'll like bundle it, but she's creating like enough worlds outside of music to where she can kind of like, when she does release that album, she could bundle something like most people can't even like come near.
Right.
Because like everything outside of music is like, I mean, it's probably not as big because she has like a lot of number one hit songs, but like she's like definitely creeping up on like the world of like, I don't even make music and like I don't make music quote unquote anymore. And like people still know who I am for a bunch of other things. And I think the other thing that kind of came to mind was like, I feel like Billboard as an institution is kind of like struggling with, like everybody's kind of like scrambling with how do we measure what people are listening to,
right?
Because of streaming. And you kind of, I mean, you see it with like the Oscars, like, hey, we don't want to include Netflix films, or like Emmys haven't been that reluctant, but you definitely see it with music. And like in the Grammys, right? They're like, how do we factor in, you know, this artist that like what The Life of Pablo, like there are no physical copies of it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like what do we do with that? I think they're also on the end of like, how do we still gauge what people are interested in, even though we don't have the traditional unit to even like look to anymore? Because I mean, this year I bought like one CD. And it was just because, like, I just wanted the physical version of it. But, like...
Yeah.
Yeah. I was Jimmy Lee, Raphael Sadiq. I just had to do it. But, like... but, yeah, it's like... I mean, how do we know what people are interested in? I think this is Billboard. Like, how do we know what people are interested in if we don't have the thing that we've always had to kind of, like, gauge it?
Right. You know what keeps jumping off even talking about this? Remember when I think that was Nicki Minaj had to cancel her tour because they didn't have enough sales? So it's like, you know, do you think that things like bundling, because I feel like it doesn't really get, I even think in the article, there's this part where it says the changes come as bundles have been at the center of public debate around the Billboard charts, with many arguing that bundle sales do not reflect customers' true interest in purchasing the album, but rather the merchandise that it's packaged with. You know what I'm saying? So
I didn't like that. Sorry, go ahead.
But I mean, but seriously, like, but think about it like this: just because, like, what if I want to buy a piece of merch, but y'all know me, I never go anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So you wouldn't even necessarily, like, I buy a lot of vinyl. Like you know, anytime Tycho puts out a record, you know, I'm getting that record. You know what I'm saying? But if Tycho comes to Philadelphia, I'm never going to that show.
I think it's funnier because it's a Tycho show. It's like, man, we just gonna be in there chilling, like cocktail hour feel.
Bruh. Be in that joint straight sleep in the corner with some khakis on. You know what I'm saying?
Khakis.
But I do think that, like, because if you think about it, especially with the way that artist deals are set up now, where, you know, there's not really a lot of artists that don't have like a 360 deal. So if these labels are throwing a tour and they're basing it off of, you know, maybe like the album sales of a bundle only for people to not even show up to come to the show, now the label has wasted even more money. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. It's crazy. Like I was trying to scour like Twitter to see if people were like upset about it, and nobody was really saying anything, which was odd to me. And it might just be because the rule hasn't gone into effect just yet, and maybe we got to give it some time. But I give it maybe to like at least June or July. We'll probably hear from one or two artists that don't really like how it is. Yeah. And I imagine that it's definitely going to be an artist that has a really big name, you know.
Travis, maybe. I mean, that Travis Nicki thing early in the year was very telling. It kind of led us to this moment, in my opinion. Because I mean, Astroworld was huge. I mean, the music still spoke for itself,
right?
But man, his brand does as well. Like, I mean, the merch, like all of that, man.
Oh, and dudes be showing up like when they had the Astroworld tour. Down there, and bro, you see how many people was at that show?
Yeah, man.
It's like it looked like it was like 100,000 people at that show.
You talking about from the Netflix documentary.
Yeah,
where
but even that one, but then he also like, cause that was from the first year, but then he had the one this year when he tore his knee up. There was more people at that one than was on the Netflix special.
Yeah. And if I'm understanding this correctly, like I just feel like even the line about it reflects people wanting to buy their merch and not the music. The way that I view fans and how people consume music and people like being into artists and being fans, most of the time they're not really fans because of the music. It's like there's something bigger about them where, like, you know, if Travis Scott was selling, he probably was selling those dolls at one time. Like he would sell those dolls and they would probably sell out. If he was selling, like, I don't know, paper towel rolls, but it's not about music most of the time. At least the way I see it, like people are into Travis Scott because of, like, Travis Scott represents something bigger to them, you know?
Yeah, but that's not something new.
Right. But that's what I mean. Like, why are you discounting sales from bundles if people buy a product because of something different anyway? Like, right. Yeah, like people are into music and people like music, obviously. But then, like, you know, people also aren't going to buy a t-shirt that they think is ugly, you know? So right. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's like if you got the kind of brand where, like, you can sell anything or you can sell what makes sense, and like music is a part of that, and that's just how it is. Like, I mean, maybe it's because it's hip hop people doing it now, like, because it's, you know, it's a different color face on it. I don't know, but it's like it's kind of bold to me because people, this is how consumers are. Like, they don't care. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think
sense.
Yeah, no, you are, but I mean, I don't think that that's anything new. I mean, why does Michael Jordan still sell billions of dollars of sneakers in 2020? And the man hasn't played basketball. He hasn't played basketball in 20 years.
I agree. It's not new, but that's what I'm saying. Like, so then why is there a new rule behind it? That's what I'm saying.
You know how the bundle has to be priced higher? It actually has to be priced at least $3.49 higher for an album to qualify for the charts. That sounds like the record label trying to make sure that they actually get the money, because if you think about merch, the merch has less to do with the label than the album does. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the label doesn't necessarily, the label doesn't own any parts of Travis's Jordans at all. Like, and I very much believe they probably don't own anything that has to do with any of his apparel either. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not gonna lie though. As we speak though, they are probably hashing out deals to get into merch, or they already have, maybe in some sense, you know?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm one of those people. I don't really look at labels as the boogeyman. I look at labels as an established business that understands publishing better than anybody, and they want to make sure that they still get their publishing money. I get that, you know, and that's the beauty of it. Listen, if you don't want to play by those rules, then just stay independent. You know what I'm saying? It's as easy as that. But, you know, you're able to at least get something from these labels, and, you know, the labels are trying to make it so that, like, think about, Azari and I especially can, like, really speak to this. Like, we really were a part of, like, the heyday of when labels were literally just dumping gallons of money at an artist, like $1 million videos for like one song. You know what I'm saying? And that was like normal. So, you know, and the funny thing is, you remember that music and you remember those visuals more than you remember anything now. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like I kind of do want to see, in some ways, the labels be able to kind of, in some ways, get back to where they are without having to, like, dick over the artists, obviously, you know? But
it's the Wild West. The streaming services are now the new labels, so that's what everyone's literally trying to figure out right now.
Yeah, and me and Smythe were talking earlier about how much, like, streaming has done so much for those, you know, those older artists. Like Stanley was saying, like, you look at all these old rock guys, these dudes are 98 years old. These dudes are still touring, making $100 million a year off of touring. You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
streaming has like made that possible. Would you say, Smythe?
The Guns N' Roses tour, if I remember correctly, they did a tour in like 2017. I think it grossed like 68 million.
Bro, those groups come to the Wells Fargo Center, and there's more people at that show than are at the Sixers game or the Flyers game. You know what I'm saying? Because they can actually fill the bowl with like 10,000 more people. So there'll be like, I think the seats, there's like 20,000, but because they can fill the lower bowl, they can get closer to like 30,000. You know what I'm saying? And I think the ticket prices are a lot higher.
Yep.
At those shows than they are for like basketball games. So
definitely.
Speaking of which, let that be on the agenda for us for 2025. We need to buy a stadium so we can start making some money. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I do know that this 100% does have to do with the fact that, just album sales they're just still pretty low, but it's just interesting, man. It's interesting. Anybody else got anything they want to add to that, or we can go to the next thing? Nope. Yo, this joint was pretty crazy. So everybody knows the often used website Genius, who is pretty much primarily popular because of the fact that they source lyrics from pretty much every artist. And so the website Genius has basically become the go-to search engine for when you're trying to look for, lyrics from your favorite artists. Not only are they that, but then they also, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, figured out a way to turn that into a way to share something visual on your socials. And so over the last couple of years, Genius has just basically been the Google of searching for lyrics. You know what I'm saying? Well, I think that Google, being as great as they are and as big as they are, they understood that very, very much so. And I don't think that they were too happy about the fact that people would go right to Genius to look for lyrics when your natural inclination would be to hop on Google and just to type in lyrics into the search engine.
They Suge Knighted Genius.
Yeah. So with all that being said, Genius comes out through Hollywood Reporter this year, and this wasn't like the first time the initial news I think actually came out in June that they had found out that some of this stuff was happening earlier this year. But yeah, Genius says it caught Google and LyricFind, which is like a third party place that was helping Google with all this, red-handed stealing lyrics, and they are holding Google in court for $50 million in a lawsuit.
First of all, the red-handed is funny because it's quite literally red-handed.
Red-handed, exactly.
In Morse code. That's so funny, bro.
So let me get a couple quick hitters on this. So in the article, which was actually, like I said, Hollywood Reporter, and it was written by Ashley Cullins. She said that the site became suspicious after noticing lyrics to designers, which is of all the people that they became suspicious about. This is kind of funny. They became suspicious after noticing lyrics to Designer's 2016 hit Panda that appeared in a Google search results box, matching its transcription character for character. After the discovery, Genius implemented a watermark using variations of apostrophes in its lyrics. Genius set the 2nd, 5th, 13th, 14th, 16th, and 20th apostrophes of each watermark song as curly apostrophes, and all the other apostrophes straight, states the complaint. If the straight apostrophes are interpreted as dots, as the curly apostrophes are interpreted as dashes, the pattern spells out red-handed in Morse code. For months, Genius monitored Google results looking for the watermark. And in May 2017, it contacted the tech giant explaining the watermark and using Kendrick Lamar's Pride as an example. The company asserts multiple Google execs claim they were looking into the issue but never offered an explanation. First of all, this is some high-level M6 KGB. You know what I'm saying?
It was some savage engineers right there.
Bruh.
Yeah. It was literally genius.
Yeah, right?
Pun intended.
Yeah. No, it was literally genius because that was the second one, right?
Yeah, that was the second one. So in April of this year, they approached Google again, and Google identified LyricFind as the source of the lyrics that they were like looking into. So Genius sent LyricFind a cease and desist order, and nothing changed until the Wall Street Journal published a story about the fact that these guys were lifting their lyrics. And after that, Genius says its watermark product disappeared from information box results. Yo.
Wow.
The company then devised a new watermark using spaces, one that spells genius in Morse code. Genius did another round of analysis and estimates 40% of lyrics from new music displayed in the information box were misappropriated from its site. Genius is suing Google and LyricFind for breach of contract, alleging that they would have to come to agree to the site's term of service in order to access the lyrics, and the contract prohibits commercial usage. And this last thing says Genius is also suing both companies for violations of California and New York State unfair competition laws and unjust enrichment. Now, the thing that jumped off the page to me was I had to actually go back and because I was like, how can Genius sue somebody for lyrics they don't own?
Mm-hmm. I thought the same thing.
But then come to find out, it's because not only is Genius crowdsourcing, because that's really what this is. It's crowdsourcing of lyrics. Like Genius is not writing their lyrics. It's almost like a Wikipedia of lyrics. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Just presented in a really nice way. And then also I found out too that one thing I did not know is how when we go on Instagram, the reason why we can see those lyrics on like Instagram stories is because of Genius. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So that's probably how Genius is making their money outside of like branded content and advertising and stuff like that, because obviously they can't charge for these lyrics because they don't own it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But they can charge for sourcing the lyrics.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a sense, wasn't Google like affecting their traffic on their website too? Because people were looking up the lyrics and their search was like bumped down like 4 or 5 places. Yeah. And John and I know, especially SEO, bro. Yo.
Yes, sir.
Search engine optimization is like gold. And so if you're not there on that first page, and especially if you're not in the top, 1, 2, or 3, you're more than likely not going to get clicked on. So it's really interesting. This was just a fascinating story. First of all, the engineering feat of like putting like not real apostrophes and spaces so that if they went back and sourced the lyrics that they could see, that, man, that in and of itself is genius. And then the fact that nobody even thought to, because like what you wouldn't even think to do that, right?
Yeah.
If you're just stealing it, you know what I'm saying?
That's nuts. Right. That's crazy.
But man, it brings up so many, I guess, the weird gray area of what appropriating like information on the internet looks like now in this age. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like essentially the internet is a bunch of that.
That's all it is. There's no Bleacher Report. There's no The Ringer. There's no what's the name of the other place? I can't think of it.
House of Highlights.
House of Highlights.
Mm-hmm.
And but the thing is, I think that the understanding that we get from those is that we know why they exist. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that if anything, it's just going to be traffic wars, which I think those entities understand. But this is on some, we're going to outright try to suppress you because we don't want people, because this is how Google makes their money. They make their money from advertising. They make more money from advertising than anybody in the world. Right. So if you're hopping on Google and you're not going to search, then this is one of the ways that they're able to target you, is because of what you're typing into the search bar. And if you're not even using the search bar, but just going straight to Genius, now they can't track you, I guess would be like the, this is some scary, I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. This joint make my stomach hurt even talking about it on this podcast, because I'm like, they gonna come and get us.
Yeah,
I think they do. Yep.
Yeah, because when you on Spotify, when you click the lyrics, Genius pops up, and it actually goes in depth. Well, like if you're listening to like a Jay-Z, it'll drop like that whole bar, and then on the next sequence, go in depth to what that bar meant.
Yeah, and the people that are on there are lightning fast. So like that Sir record that came out that we were on this summer, before, like, I want to say maybe 20 minutes after we let people know that we were on the record, somebody had already annotated it for us on Genius as producers on the record. Wow. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Because somebody was like, yo, you should go on Genius and make sure you put it on Genius. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even think about that, And I went on there and it was already done. And I was like, okay. And I know it wasn't the label that did it, because that's not the way that platform works.
Man,
right.
It's kind of like when you look at an Instagram post or a YouTube post and someone just says first as a comment.
Yeah.
That's what cats want. They just want to be first.
Yeah. But yeah, going with what John said earlier, this is so gray. Mm-hmm. This is so gray. I really don't know. In my opinion, I think what's probably going to happen is Google's going to pay them. It's not going to be $50 million. It's going to be like $25 million just to kind of make it go away. And then Google's just going to keep doing it. You can't stop them. You know what I'm saying? They're just going to keep doing it,
Just take the apostrophes out.
Yeah. But the other thing too that I was like, we are officially getting like really, really more acquainted seemingly by the month into the world of publishing. Mm-hmm. And ownership is like so important. And really what you're seeing right now is you're seeing people really start to understand that having ownership of, intellectual property, much in the same way that if you have ownership of regular property, like out in the world, it makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. And that's all I could think of was, how do you even assert that you have a right to be able to sue in this particular case if you're technically not making, if you're asserting that you're not making a profit off of these lyrics when you technically are.
Mm-hmm.
That is interesting. This might open a rabbit hole and go into different other lawsuits to the point where we might have to go to each artist's page to actually get the lyrics for their song, and it can't be, in one source.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I've never opened my browser and typed in genius.com.
Oh, me neither. I'll go straight to Google, to be honest.
Yeah, I go to Google, and I remember like there was a time after a while I realized, because there was a time where you would drop down the lyrics and then it would say see more lyrics, and then it would take you to another website. Mm-hmm. And at that time I would be like, all right, well, let me just scroll down. Then I would end up on Genius from Google. Mm-hmm. And then I think I realized it this year. I would press find more lyrics, and it's the full lyrics of the song.
Right there.
Which is what
page.
They want. That's what they want.
Yeah. So, and I didn't even think about the fact that it was affecting, the fact that I'm not really going to Genius anymore. I'm not going to Lyric, whatever website There used to be so many back in the day. But
they're still there. Because
yeah.
the crazy thing is, like, even with Genius being moved down a couple of spaces, I'm just now realizing that when I did look up lyrics and I hit show more, if I didn't hit show more, I clicked on the first one and it was usually A to Z lyrics.com.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Man.
But we do have to give Genius their flowers, man, because
facts.
It's a really
They're
great
very
site.
in depth with it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you got to imagine that when you get into the ad, and this is why it's so hard being a publisher, because that's the other thing too. It's like, not only is this about publishing from the artist standpoint, writer standpoint, but this is also going at publishing from Genius's standpoint as a publisher of content. You know what I'm saying? And so because they are a publisher, they have to make their money off of ads and branded content. And so that's how they pay their bills, and they can only get the right amount of money if their stats are right. You know what I'm saying? So like they can't go to McDonald's and be like, yo, can you sponsor this next series that we're doing and we want $2 million, unless their stats are there. You know what I'm saying? So if Google is dipping into their, dipping into their daily and monthly stats, their click-through rates and stuff like that, Google is big enough to drop that like 1 million clicks in a day. You know what I'm saying? Because it's that big. That's a significant drop, man. So I can definitely understand, why Genius is, really up in arms about this. And I mean, for real, I mean, even 50 million, it's like, where do you even get that number from? Is that because of like, is that a number based off of like damages because of like stuff that you lost because your stats weren't where it should be, type of thing? Maybe they lost, because they're not going to come out and say this, but maybe they lost, ad revenue because of that, man.
Oh yeah,
it's mad layers, yo.
50 million is a lot of money.
Well, yeah, it is, but in this type of business, it's the price of doing business, Like it's a lot, but not really. You know what I'm saying?
For Google, probably.
But I don't even think it's a lot for Genius either. You know what I'm saying? So, for the amount of traffic that a website like Genius gets, 50 million is probably on the lower side. They probably could raise.
Sorry, I think I'm gonna go work for Genius. Sorry, Wes.
You're not getting any of that money. That's going to the execs, my G.
Right. They be paying me $3 per song.
Yeah, they're going to charge
30 cents a song.
Remember the $3.29 that Billboard's charging per record? That's what you getting.
Never mind. I'm. Let me just stop.
You're going too far.
Yeah, bro.
But yeah, man. Appreciate everybody listening. We'll see you guys next week.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
Later, man.